On this episode of Jeffito's movie blog, Manners Maketh Man, as me and a special guest go spoiler heavy talking about the new hit movie Kingsman, The Golden Circle. Stick around. Welcome back to Jeffito's movie blog. I'm Jeff Malicki, and if you love movies as much as I do, make sure that you hit that subscribe button. I bring you movie news, movie reviews, trailer reaction videos, box office predictions, and so much more. So make sure that you hit that subscribe button, and then click that little bell notification icon so that you don't miss anything. And joining me today is my good friend Durban. How you doing, man?
I am doing great. I am so excited to join you on your channel.
Hey, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I can't wait. Good movie to talk about, too.
Absolutely. So let's jump right on into it. Let's not waste any time. Kingsman, The Golden Circle, of course, is the sequel to Kingsman Secret Service, which came out in 2014 or 2015. I don't remember.
Somewhere in that window. It was before I started my channel, so somewhere in that window.
Right? Yeah, I think it was 2014, but it may have been 2015. That's not important. That's not the movie we're talking about. We are talking about the sequel that is currently in theaters right now, Kingsman, The Golden Circle. I thought it was fantastic. I still prefer the first film over this one. I think the first one is still the better made movie, but this one I thoroughly enjoyed. And for you guys that are watching right now, this is going to be a spoiler talk. We are going to talk about every little detail that we want to. So if you have not seen the movie yet, stop this video, go see it, and then come on back because we are talking spoilers.
Yeah! Let's spoil this thing.
All right. For me, my first initial thought was it hits the ground running. It is balls to the wall action right from the first minute or two. And that took a little while for me to get used to because there wasn't a whole lot of setup. They just kind of threw you in right away. There's a car chase with Eggsy down the streets of London, and you're in the movie right away.
Oh, yeah. And you know what? I really enjoyed that being just, dropped right into the midst of an action sequence. I mean, what a great way to show that the dude who we thought his head was blown off in the last movie is actually still alive and now has this metal mechanical arm, and he's the dude with that arm from the trailer. And what I thought was cool about that scene was not just how awesome and action-packed the scene was, but, if you remember the church sequence from the first one, kind of how they shot that church sequence where it looks like one long shot, you can sort of tell there's a few jump cuts in there, but it's like one long shot, and it's so cool looking the way the camera's placed, the way the camera moves with the action. I felt like you had that inside the car in that first scene. So, you had that same type of style in a very confined space in that first scene. Of course, I kept wondering, why doesn't the driver stop?
Right?
If I was the driver, I might have slammed on the brakes, smashed the bad guy's head into the window, let Eggsy do his thing, but I guess they were being chased. I did forget about that. They were being chased, but still. Stop, knock out the bad guy, then drive really fast. I don't know. But nonetheless, I thought that was an amazing opening scene.
Oh yeah, they just drop you in and you're off going 120 miles an hour. There's no setup, no nothing. You are in the movie right from the first minute or two.
Yeah, the coolest thing, though, is as they're going through the streets of London, and they do the car, and they do that turn, and it looks like just that one long drift. Not only did it remind me of Tokyo Drift, the one scene where they drift through that crowd in Tokyo, but it made me think of Mario Kart, because I'm trying to master drifting in Mario Kart so I can get the boost. So I'm sitting there watching him drift. I'm like, oh, there it goes. He's got the yellow spark. Can he get to the purple and get the big boost? I thought that was awesome.
Right. And going back to what you were saying about how the camera zooms in and just that whole one-take thing.
Yeah.
I thought it's really cool. It was a cool effect back in the church scene, which was, of course, one of my favorite parts of the first film. Used a great effect here, but throughout the entire film they used that effect. And as the movie went on, it did get a little old.
Yeah, I have to admit there was a part of me that thought, okay, you're using this a lot because of how successful it was in the church scene in the first movie, but that was so successful in the first movie because nobody saw that coming a mile away. No one saw that coming, and it was a shock. I didn't get super tired of it, but in the back of my mind I went, well, I know why you're doing this. You had such a good reaction from the first movie, now you're kind of overusing it in this one. But to me, that's kind of a nitpick, because even when I just sort of started to accept it, I enjoyed the fight scenes. Like, I just thought the action sequences in this movie were so cool, and my favorite part of them was no shaky cam. I hate shaky cams so freaking much. And so just to, like, clearly have a camera on a tripod, so to speak, and just be able to see the action, that was the best part to me.
Right. And, again, it is a nitpick, but as the movie went on, I'm like, okay, you had your gimmick in the first film, you're using it a lot here, maybe back off and use just a normal style of action, but, you know, I totally get why they did it, and it is a total nitpick.
Yeah, but you're right, though. The reasoning behind them doing it is like, okay, you're just doing it because it was so cool looking in the first one. I mean, explore a little bit. And I think I would have been happy if they would have explored a little bit, but at the same time, like, I don't know. I just thought this movie was pure fun.
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, and like I said up top, I like the first one better. I think the first one is a better movie. But this one is more fun.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's going to be interesting once this comes out on Blu-ray, after I see it a few more times, when I want to watch a Kingsman movie, which one am I going to grab? Because this one is a lot of fun.
Yeah, I agree with that. You know, one of the things in this movie that I liked, and I'm very curious to talk to you about this. Okay, so the princess that had that crazy scene at the end of that first movie. Save the world and you can, you know. Yeah, so that whole scene. The fact that they took that joke and then made it a legit relationship, that he was actually dating her, and it was a serious relationship, at first, I'm going to be honest, that totally threw me off. And I was like, that was just a joke. Are you trying to course correct because you got a lot of bad comments from the joke? But as it went on, I ended up liking it. Like, I thought it worked, and I liked the dynamic of her being a princess, him being a secret agent. He can't have his face out there. What does that mean for their relationship? Without it being a soap opera and over-dramatized, I thought it added a nice tension with Eggsy in this movie.
Oh, absolutely. You know, and especially because they had Roxy in the first couple scenes, and, of course, she gets blown up.
That blew me away. I couldn't believe they killed her. Another risk.
Right. You know, but, you know, once I saw that she was back, I thought, oh, okay, are she and Eggsy together? And then, no, all of a sudden she's with, Eggsy's with Princess, whatever her name is. I don't remember her name. No, but the princess from the first one who he did stuff with after wrestling her and saving the world. Yeah,
stuff.
You know, I really thought that he and Roxy were an item at first, and then all of a sudden, she and Kingsman headquarters and the entire Kingsman organization are no longer existent because Poppy, played wonderfully by Julianne Moore, blows up the headquarters.
Yeah. And you know what's so interesting? I should have known Roxy was dead because the only two in the trailers are Merlin and Eggsy. Those are the only two from Kingsman that are in the trailers. And the trailer did make a big deal about the fact that, I mean, they're it. And I guess I just didn't think about what that meant because I thought maybe Roxy was just somewhere else, off on another mission far away. But the fact that she was actually in the castle and blown up, I mean, I thought that was a nice risk that this movie took. A character that was such a major part of the first one that we kind of become attached to, and they killed her off so fast, and they made that work. And then on top of that, I think what got me more than Roxy's death, it was JB's death, his pug. That,
yes,
when they blew up his house and his pug got blown up, I was... my priorities are wrong, and I know this now, but I was more upset about the death of that pug than I was at the death of Roxy.
Right. Yeah, and, you know, that is a huge risk. They showed it in the trailer that the Kingsman headquarters got blown up, but to me it didn't compute, and I didn't fully understand the ramifications of that.
Yeah.
You know, until I saw it play out on screen, I'm like, oh, the entire Kingsman organization is gone. Okay.
Including characters that we've come to know and really like. They're dead. It's like, crap.
It's like,
so
okay.
that was a thing.
It certainly was.
But I liked it. It was cool that they did that. I thought it was a risk well taken, and I think the risk paid off. And that's the important thing to note, is it worked. Unlike other times when movies take a risk and it falls on its face, this paid off.
Oh, absolutely. I touched briefly upon it, but let's talk about Julianne Moore's performance as Poppy.
Yes.
I thought she was fantastic. I know my only nitpick about it, and from a story standpoint, I kind of understand it. But the fact that she does not really interact with our main characters until the third act. She's kind of
Yeah.
isolated. And that was a little bit weird at first. She's like hidden, she's secluded, she's doing all this stuff, but she's not really interacting, and you don't have a sense of purpose from our hero's perspective about why she's doing it. No, are they going after her, whatever, because there is not that interaction at first.
Yeah. You know what's interesting is I didn't even think about it that way until you just put it that way. So that is interesting because you're right. They had zero interaction with her, and they didn't even know she existed until she broadcasted herself on every TV network about, the drugs, the blue rash, and the fact that she's the only one that has the cure that could save everybody. And so, like, they have no interaction with her whatsoever. They just know Kingsman got blown up, and the only hint they have is the Golden Circle. So the only motivation they have to go on is, why did they blow up the entire Kingsman organization? We're on Doomsday Protocol. We got to work with the statesmen. We got to figure out why they blew this up. And you're right. Like, they didn't know about the drugs. They didn't know about anything until about halfway through this movie, and stuff starts to, come together of what's actually going on. The blue rash makes sense. Kingsman blowing up makes sense. It starts, like, they start to... But I thought that was kind of interesting. I agree that it's... Now that I think about it, it's a little awkward at first. It just did not cross my mind.
It's a very unconventional way of showing the dynamic between the hero and the villain, but they made it work.
Yeah. And what I liked about it is they continued what they did when, as they're playing with that old 60s spy genre feel. So, like, in the old 60s spy genre feel, like, all the villains kind of got their own weird thing going on. I mean, you had Samuel L. Jackson, who wanted to kill off mankind, and he had a crazy lisp. And he had a henchman with knives for legs. And then, in this one, you have the main villain who just has this 50s nostalgia thing. So she lives in undiscovered ruins and has built an entire little 50s neighborhood, like, in that little area, complete with 50s diner and salon and all that stuff.
And the bowling alley and just everything.
Yeah. But they continued that weird thing where the villains have that kind of weird villain quality to them. And I thought that was really cool. And I liked her 1950s quality, and then how creepy that was that she made burgers out of her henchmen that now she does not like anymore. Oh, gosh.
That was so over the top. But
it was awesome. I gagged while I was watching the guy eat the burger of his friend. Oh, my God.
Oh, God, yes. I'm like getting dry heaves just thinking about it now.
Gosh, it was pretty nasty. You know what gave me other dry heaves? So, like, how they filed down their teeth, burned off their fingerprints and all that stuff to make sure they were unidentifiable when they became part of the Golden Circle. Watching that dude's teeth get ground down. I don't know why that did it, but that definitely... I felt like suddenly my teeth were hurting when they were grinding down his teeth.
Yeah, big dentist phobia. It's like, okay, yes, stop it.
Yep. But she was a really cool villain, and I really liked Julianne Moore in her character. I liked the way she played it. I thought she was very villainous. I liked her whole 1950s thing. Like, I just liked her. I thought she was a really good villain for our Kingsman and our Statesman to go up against.
And you brought it up. Now let's go ahead and talk about the Statesman.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought that was a very interesting dynamic. You have the Kingsmen, who are suit clothiers in London, and then you have the Statesmen, who are whiskey and bourbon people from Tennessee, and that's their cover. I thought that was a very fun dynamic.
Oh, I thought that was a really fun dynamic. Like I said in my spoiler-free review, one of the things that I thought was fun, and I don't remember if they said this in the trailer, and if they did, somehow just went right over my head, but I liked that because it was cool to just see this in the movie, was the fact that the Kingsmen are all, named after the Knights of the Round Table. Like, they are the quintessential British. Everything that is quintessential British, it's like what they are. And they're named after Knights of the Round Table. But I loved, and then we go to the mirror side of this, their cousins, the Statesmen, and they're named after drinks. And, champagne, whiskey, tequila. Like, I really, really like that. I like the other mirror thing where, the Kingsmen, their big thing is their umbrellas. And then the umbrellas of the Statesmen is their lightsaber lassos. And I don't know. To me, those were such fun things to play with. And I had so much fun with those things.
Yeah, the lightsaber lasso, again, is a little over the top. And
Oh, of course it is. But these movies are over the top, so it works.
Right, and that's what I was going to say is, you've seen the first one, and I think that might be why I think it's a little bit better film, is there is still some level of grounding in the first film.
That is true. That is true. They did leave a little grounding behind with this one.
Yeah, the first one, yeah, it's over the top, it does go to the extreme, but there is that little subtle level of groundation, if that's a word.
Yeah.
Whereas this one...
It's a good word.
Yes. This one is without any groundation. It just knows it's absurd. It goes balls to the wall. It's very over the top, very extreme. But in the context, when you're sitting there shoving popcorn in your face, it is one hell of a fun ride. I love it.
It is. There was one scene where exactly what you're describing stood out to me, and it was the scene when they were up in the mountain area, and they were riding, whatever you call that thing on the wire, the skylift on its way up to the... Yes. And when they were coming back, and they broke that wire, and they were swinging down, and they hit the snow, and they would bounce, and Whiskey and Eggsy are just flipping around inside, hitting the walls. I'm watching that, and I'm like, oh, they're dead. About 1,000,000 times over, they're dead. But it's like what you said. You accept it, though, because of the world this film presents. And the fact that this isn't the most grounded film, the fact that this film is just kind of having fun with the genre and just having fun with itself, it becomes acceptable. And it's like, you could just sit back and enjoy it for what it is and have a blast with it.
Yeah, you can't take this film too seriously because the movie itself does not take itself as seriously as the first film. And that's a major complaint that I'm hearing in other reviews, is that this one... there's a little bit of a disconnect between the first film and this one because, again, the first film had some level of grounding in it, whereas this one is just a total spoof on the genre. And but for me, I turn my brain off, suspend disbelief, shove popcorn in my face, and it is a fun movie, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah. And honestly, any people who are saying there's like a really big disconnect, I'm just going to flat out disagree. I mean, I can agree to the fact that, yes, it does have a little bit less groundation than the first one. It's true. There's less groundation. However, it's not outside of the lore they've created. Like, they created a world in that first one. They created a lore around it. And I don't think this broke the lore it created. I think... it might have pushed the bounds, but it stayed in the bounds of what they've already made. So I don't see that big of a disconnect. And I think if you go into this with the right expectations and just eat some popcorn and enjoy some awesome looking action, what are you going to be disappointed about?
Exactly. And to your point, they didn't go beyond the boundaries of the world that they created. They just pushed the envelope a few more notches. I think that's the best way to describe it.
Exactly. Yeah. So one of the things that I thought was interesting was Harry.
Yes.
And we all saw in the trailer that they brought him back. And so at first, when he had no memory, which I thought was very interesting, that he had amnesia, and they didn't have it, since they didn't know who he was, they didn't have anything that could trigger a memory or reboot his brain or, bring him back. I thought for a minute there, and they started doing this, they were going to do a little Men in Black 2 thing, where Tommy Lee Jones had no memory being a man in black, and Will Smith, who was trained by him in the first movie, now has to train him in this movie. Right. There was a moment where I thought it was going to go in that direction. What did you think?
Yeah, I got that same feeling first as well. I did think it was a little bit of a cop-out, the way that they brought him back. I'm not sure how I wanted them to bring him back. I mean, we all knew, we all saw the trailers that Harry is back. But just the way that they brought him back...
Yeah, we saw that.
The way that they brought him back, I'm not horribly comfortable with that. I thought it was a little bit of a cop-out. But again, I'm not sure how myself, as a screenwriter, if I was going to bring Colin Firth's character back, how I would have done it.
Yeah.
I mean, given the fact that he was shot point blank in the head in the first film.
Yep.
No, and now in this one, oh yeah, he lost his eye, but otherwise he's perfectly fine. Like,
Well, you know what? I want that technology that they wrap that thing around their face and it preserves brain function. It's like, are you freaking kidding me?
Right.
Patent that technology and get it out there to hospitals. Don't just hoard that to yourself.
Exactly.
Holy cow, that's awesome.
It's like
Gosh.
you have the technology that can save so many lives and just change the world, and it's being hoarded and kept secret by some hillbillies in Kentucky.
Yes! Get that thing out there! Use it for your own organization, but my gosh, let hospitals use that and save people's lives. I mean, 2 people were shot at point blank range in this movie, and their lives were saved because of this thing preserving their brain function. And then all it takes is something strong enough to reboot the brain and bring back the memory. It's like, are you freaking kidding me?
Yeah. Again,
Release that to the public. That made me angry, actually. When I was watching that, I was like, you've got to be kidding me. You're an organization, and you've stated you exist to bring peace to the world. This could help in that, and you're not releasing that? Come on.
all right. It's obvious both of us really enjoy the film. You know, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Sounds like you did as well. Let's go ahead and talk about any negatives that we have, if any. For me, based on the trailers, I thought that Channing Tatum's character would have had a much larger role in the film. than what
Fully
he
agree.
did. He's literally in it for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, his role is so short, and in the trailer, like, there's a clip in the trailer that is not in that movie, and it's that, you know, where Eggsy's like, oh, that's really American. He goes, oh, yeah. And it's like, I wanted to know what they were looking at. That was so American. So I was kind of
Right.
looking forward to that scene, and the scene was even cut. And then his role, like, his was a plot device to show you the blue rash, the stages of the blue rash, and that he did drugs, so he was poisoned. It's like, that was kind of just his role. And I'm like, oh, you're kidding me.
Yeah, and again, the trailer misrepresented his role to a significant extent, I think. They basically had him as like third or fourth billing in the trailer when Pablo Pascal, the other statesman, had a much larger role than
yeah.
Channing Tatum.
If
But
anything,
he's-
I thought it was going to be reversed based on the trailer. I thought Tatum was going to have the larger part and that other dude the shorter part, but no. That Whiskey had the longer part, and then he was a bad guy.
Right. Yeah. No, and I don't fault the trailer company or the studio or Matthew Vaughn or anybody for that. No, their job is to sell a movie, and Channing Tatum has much more star power than Pablo Pascal. But still, it's like you go in with certain expectations. You're expecting certain scenes. Like you said, that one scene is not even in the movie,
Yeah.
and then his part is literally a 5-minute cameo.
Yeah. And I'm glad, as far as finding negatives, I mean, I'm glad that's a negative because this movie was just overwhelmingly good. And I'm glad the negative is we just wish these characters had more of a role. And I really do. I thought, like, our introduction to Tequila when Eggsy and Merlin first got to, the Statesman hideout, like, he was awesome, man. And, he spits his tobacco and it plugs the hole as the whiskey's leaking out. And then he takes out Eggsy and Merlin in just a few quick moves. Like that introduction is, this dude is awesome. His interrogation of Eggsy and Merlin, this dude is awesome. And then, boom, we take him out of the whole equation. And it's like, oh, man, really? I wanted to see more. And then Halle Berry, her part was kind of short, too.
Yeah, she was, but I kind of got that feeling from the trailer that she wasn't going to have a major role. Whereas Channing Tatum, you're watching the movie, he's being introduced as a complete badass, taking out Eggsy and Mark Strong's character, and then all of a sudden he's sidelined for like 3/4 of the movie. And it's like, what?
And then for the longest time, the scene we talked about in the trailer that is not in this movie, I thought, well, that's the giveaway. He's going to be fine because he's going to come back in the last act of this movie and he's going to be part of the final stuff, whatever it is they're looking at, that he's like, oh, yeah, it's American. It's like, that's going to be like some kind of awesome plane. It's going to get them there fast. So I thought I had this predicted, and then, that scene's not even in it. And so, on the one hand, I'm glad it wasn't that predictable, but on the other hand, it's like, but I wanted to see Tequila. That dude was awesome.
Yeah, they built him up as a total badass. You see him in the trailer. You're expecting all this great stuff, and then it never happens.
Yeah. I agree with that. My only other negative with this movie, so like Tequila was kind of a bigger one for me, but my only other one is I feel like this movie could have been just a little bit shorter. It was kind of funny because I was seeing this with my wife and my brother-in-law, and as all three of us were walking out of the theater, we all kind of just looked at each other and went, that was a really fun movie. Oh my gosh, what time is it? Like, it's like, wow. I mean, I feel like they could have done the same effect, just a little shorter, but that's just me nitpicking.
Yeah, it is a nitpick, but it is a valid one because I feel the same way. There are a few things that I could have cut out, and I think the movie would have been the same, especially when they go to the Glastonbury Festival and Eggsy has to insert a planting device in
Yep.
the enemy's girlfriend.
Yep.
That scene is
And
so
then he calls
over the
up
top.
his girlfriend, hey, honey, I have to do something that might be considered cheating to, save the world. Can I?
Right. I mean, that scene was totally over the top.
Yeah.
But in the grand scheme of the movie, I don't think it was really necessary.
Yeah, I agree. Like, there could have been other funny ways that he could have gotten the tracking device on her, put in her drink, she drinks it, I don't know. A million things that could have cut that a little short, because you're right. I mean, this movie, like the last movie with the church sequence, it was pushing the envelope, and it did something we did not see coming. And this one, it's like, okay, there's other ways you could have pushed that envelope.
Right. That was totally unexpected.
Yeah.
A little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, they're going there.
Yeah,
That's-
it's like, okay, that
that's how they're gonna
princess
attack
is
her.
really
All right.
forgiving of Eggsy. Really forgiving.
Yep.
Oh, man.
I mean, again, as far as nitpicks, Channing Tatum's character, it was maybe a few minutes too long. It could have been trimmed a little bit, especially with that one scene.
Yeah.
That didn't really need to be there. But, I mean, I'm kind of grasping at straws trying to find any negatives.
Yeah, no, me too, because, I mean, overall, it's just fun. I mean, any movie you go to, it doesn't matter. No movie's perfect. They all got negatives. It's just the question is, did you go into it and have a blast? And that was me for this. One more thing, I don't know if you would call this a negative, but I'm just curious about you. I didn't catch this, but my wife Laura sitting next to me in the theater, so they're up in the mountains they're up in the mountains, they meet at that cabin, and Whiskey wants to hold the cure. And my wife leans over, she goes, he's really a bad guy. And then we start to get the question in the movie, is he a bad guy? And of course it turns out Whiskey is a traitor, and he's a bad guy. Were you able to predict that? Were you like my wife Laura? Did you see that coming?
Not at all.
Okay. I didn't see it coming either. I don't know how she catches these things sometimes.
Right? Yeah, I did not see that coming at all. And if I'm being honest, I thought that maybe it was Harry being too paranoid.
Yeah.
At first, I thought, okay, his memory's still not fully all there. He's just kind of paranoid. He doesn't trust anybody, and that's why he shoots him point blank in the head.
Yeah, I thought that too. Yeah.
I mean, I didn't. And then it was revealed that he was a mole and that he had ulterior motives because his wife and unborn daughter got killed by drugs and whatever. I did not see that coming. That was telegraphed beautifully.
Yeah. So the only place I got a little bit suspicious, only because number one, my wife said something first. And then because my wife said something, when he broke the cure saying he's trying to save Eggsy's life, I got suspicious. But again, I don't know if I would have felt that way if Laura didn't lean in and say, oh yeah, he's going to betray them. I don't know if I would have seen it because I was along for that ride and I really liked Whiskey. I thought he was a great character, and then to have that, that whole traitor thing, that kind of surprised me.
Yeah, and again, it's not a nitpick. It's just not a negative, like you were saying. It's just something that we were not expecting.
Yeah. So this is okay. One more positive. I just have to talk about this because it's a spoiler talk. I have to.
Absolutely.
Merlin's death. The way he was singing right before he stepped off that mine, that tugged at the heartstrings. That tugged at the heartstrings. Whew. That was a great scene.
And as that scene was playing out, I thought, because you saw the henchmen go towards him, I thought maybe at the last minute he was gonna do some maneuver and have the henchmen step on the mine and he would escape.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
For a split second, I'm like, okay, Merlin's gonna make it. He's got a plan. He's doing that, and then no, he blows up in spectacular fashion.
Yeah, and it's not like Harry, where he got shot in the eye and they came up with some way that they could save him. No, Mark Strong blew up. Like, he went into pieces. He's done. And I couldn't believe it. Like, I was like, to me, it was like another risk that this movie took. And they killed this character, Merlin, who was awesome. But the way they sent him out as he was singing that song, and then he just boldly stepped off the mine, blew all those people up with him, it had a real purpose. It was awesome. And it got me right here. So, like, it worked. That risk they did, again, paid off.
Yeah, this movie did take a lot of risks, but virtually all of them did pay off.
Yeah.
One more thing, because this is a spoiler talk, we need to talk about the cameo, Elton John.
Oh, gosh. I didn't even talk about it in my spoiler-free because I didn't know if that would be a spoiler to talk about him, because it's a surprise how big his role is and how hilarious he is through this entire movie. He is freaking hilarious.
Absolutely. I mean, I had heard, on Movie Talk or John Campio podcast or somewhere that Elton John had a cameo in this film. And so he shows up the first time. I'm like, yeah, okay, that's cool. But how hilarious he was. How big a role he has in this movie. What he does in the movie. I was just like, oh my God, they got him and they went there with him.
Oh my gosh, it was the whole thing. And then, like, okay, so he had the blue rash because he's kidnapped by Poppy, and he has the blue rash because he did the drugs, and so he's dying. So they use it as an example. So when he's on TV and he's at the paralysis stage, and they give him the cure, and he wakes up, the funniest part is he's in the room and he sits down on the bed, and the doctor's standing there in a corner. He's like, "What are you doing in my room? Get out! Get out of my room!" So here they are trying to give this important, crucial dialogue. And then the upper left-hand corner of the screen is Elton John going nuts. Get out of my room! It's like all of these like moments, and then Elton John saves Harry at the end of this movie. That he's like, "Is it a rescue attempt?" I mean, oh my gosh, it was amazing.
Yeah, that was completely unexpected.
Oh man,
they put it off so good. It was like every moment he was on screen, I'm like, okay, I'm having fun. This is awesome.
Oh my God. And I felt like that. I felt like Elton John himself was having a blast just being in this movie. And I thought his role in that was amazing. It added another layer of complete fun to this movie. The fact that she kidnapped him because Valentine was kidnapping celebrities, so Poppy just took advantage of that and took one of her own. Like, that whole concept is hilarious.
Yeah, exactly. And the fact that the two robot dogs that Poppy has are named Benny and Jet. I mean, come on. It's so over the top, so ridiculous. The fact that there's even robot dogs to begin with.
Yes.
But the fact that they're called Benny and Jet.
It was just absolutely fantastic. And then I loved it when the dog is about to eat Harry, and Elton John just steps in front of the dog, and he's like, "Hello," and he has this big old smile on his face, and now the dog can't, eat Harry because Elton John is standing there, and his program, "Don't kill Elton John."
Right? Yeah, that was fantastic. All right, we are going long here. Let's start wrapping things up. Final score from you. What do you give Kingsman: The Golden Circle?
So, on my channel, I gave this movie an A-. So, I don't know what that would translate into numbers on a score, but probably 90% or something like that. I really enjoyed it. I mean, sure, it had its imperfections, and it did push the envelope of its own lore and its own world that it created and built in the first one, but I enjoyed it, and I thought every risk they took paid off.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, I'm giving it a solid 4 out of 5.
Yeah.
I'm not quite going 4.5 or even 5 out of 5. The original Kingsman, in my mind, is still a little bit better. I gave that one a 4.5. This one is a very solid 4. Totally worth seeing. If you guys have not seen Kingsman the Golden Circle, definitely go ahead and check it out because it is definitely a fun time at the movie theater.
I concur.
All right. I want to thank once again Durban for joining me. Durban, tell everybody where people can find you here on YouTube and elsewhere on the interwebs.
Yes, well, I have my channel, Durbania, as you can see here on my shirt. So you go on YouTube, you just type Durbania into the search. There should be the one and only one that pops up with that name. So I'd love to have you come by, check it out. I do a lot of stuff similar to Jeff. I got movie reviews, I have trailer reactions, I do ranking videos. I have this thing called a theological analysis where I like to dig deep and analyze movies and their messages. And then, you can find me on Twitter at World of Durbania or Facebook.com/Durbania.
And I will leave a link to Durban's channel in the description and in the end card here once we wrap up. Thank you guys so much as always for watching. Until next time, I will see you at the movies. Bye-bye.